So we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say will get attention this time.
Dr. Bartlett, great to see you. I got your text message and wanted to find out what's going on. On March 5th, I received an urgent call from a key doctor at the heart of the measles outbreak in West Texas. I caught the earliest flight to Lubbock, then drove an hour and a half west into the rural farmlands of Gaines County. The total population of Gaines County is recorded at approximately 23,000. However, this figure overlooks the 30,000 plus Mennonites who immigrated there in the 1970s. Contrary to common perception, this particular Mennonite community embraces many modern conveniences. Yet despite their contemporary lifestyle, they've remained private and largely out of the public eye. Until now.
A measles outbreak in a rural area of West Texas.
In just 2 weeks, that outbreak has jumped from 2 children to 48 people across Texas counties.
Around 92 cases in the whole state of Texas.
There are now 124 cases.
Now surpassed 300.
The state's largest outbreak in nearly 30 years.
Unfortunately, we've been told by healthcare officials it's going to get worse before it gets better.
This doesn't have to happen if we can get vaccination rates back to high levels
All
again.
of these recent cases in West Texas were in people who were not vaccinated.
Most of the patients are children who have not been vaccinated.
Unvaccinated people account for almost all
Most of those cases are in Gaines County.
Gaines County has one of the highest rates of vaccine exemptions in the entire state.
And that's raising questions about vaccine hesitancy.
The group at the center of the measles outbreak is largely unvaccinated Mennonite community. When it comes to vaccines, Mennonites don't have any standard teachings, but many prefer home remedies and traditional healing methods.
The misconception of the Mennonites is that they are uneducated and unvaccinated. Just because they're unvaccinated does not mean that they're uneducated. These mamas and these daddies, they do their studies. They've looked into what the side effects are. We here in our community interviewed 9 families that had vaccine injuries. That creates that fear that they know we don't want that for our family.
Through their deep faith in God and family, the Mennonites have preserved fundamental traditions that keep them in harmony with nature. But the reluctance to rely on synthetic drugs makes them a threat to the profiteers of Big Pharma.
I think it's very interesting, the timing of all of this, like right after elections and everything.
I'm not hearing of anybody else having the measles except the Mennonites.
How can it be? Really, like, how can it be? It seems like everybody kind of has their eye on us. We had a private little town and they were targeting us.
I mean, people that are more stubborn to vaccines, I guess you could say, IMEX for an easy target.
I'm not surprised that it is targeted in a Mennonite community, because not only can you attack people who are naturally health-minded, but you can also attack religion and religious freedom. So I could definitely see why they would choose a group like that.
The Mennonites are not the only traditional living community facing scrutiny for their way of life. The Amish have been actively challenging external pressures for years. In 2019, after a spike in measles cases, New York State ended religious exemptions, requiring all school-age Amish children to be vaccinated.
An Amish family is suing to overturn New York's ban on religious exemption.
Amish parents appealed the decision, contending that it violated their constitutional rights.
The bill is attacking the First Amendment.
However, in March of 2025, they lost that hard-fought battle when a federal appeals court ruled that Amish children attending private, one-room schoolhouses must be vaccinated. And now, it appears the Mennonites are next in line to face that same struggle.
And this week, an unvaccinated child in Lubbock died from the disease.
First death from measles during a worsening outbreak.
An unvaccinated child hospitalized with measles has died. The parents said their daughter Kaylee was 6 years old when she died on February 26th. The organization that interviewed them and posted that interview online is extremely anti-vaccine, and the parents still are too.
I just noticed one morning that she was saying she was getting very tired, and I was just noticing her breathing wasn't normal. And that's when we just decided to go to the emergency and get it checked out. It wasn't anything bad, like it just was something that I was concerned about.
Dr. Richard Bartlett and Dr. Ben Edwards were among the first to arrive after the initial measles case was reported. Together, they treated nearly every infected Mennonite child and adult.
The patient that was supposed to be the first reported death of measles was not a death from measles. It was a death from atypical pneumonia.
Unfortunately, a tragic error was committed, and that was the wrong antibiotic choice was made. And that's just the facts. It's clear in the record. That's what happened. And it's very, very unfortunate.
Dr. Pierre Kory, thank you so much for your time. You were the one that investigated the child that the media says died of measles, and I wanted to get the truth from you on that.
What I found was that she ended up having, and was diagnosed as a mycoplasma pneumonia. And the 2 antibiotics that she was put on were inappropriate for the organism she had. Measles is essentially just a rash. It was one of the most common childhood illnesses. It's not lethal by any stretch of the imagination. Over 90% of kids with measles will suffer no complication, and the few that do, those complications are easily treatable.
Measles is not that scary.
Matter of fact, my 6-year-old who was the sickest, on day 4 of his rash, he was doing his schoolwork already.
It was very mild on him. He had fever for a few days. He slept a lot through it.
He had a very, very easy case. No high fevers at all. His skin was itchy, so that bothered him the most.
After a rash broke out and started going away, I mean, his energy level was just back.
That next morning, he was skip roping.
You know, she was dealing with flu-like symptoms until the rash broke out. She was feeling pretty chipper by Monday.
They had some coughing, they had the rash, of course, but it's all very manageable. We got through in about 3 weeks, and then we were done, and then full immunity.
A second unvaccinated child has died of measles in West Texas.
This time, it's an 8-year-old unvaccinated child.
So just to be clear, this child once again did not die of measles.
Absolutely not. This child died of an overwhelming, aggressive, highly resistant E. coli bacterial pneumonia. And this hospital, they used the same combination of antibiotics that they did on the first child who died. But that culture that came back showed that what was attacking and really just destroying her lungs was what's called a gram-negative bacteria. It's E. coli. It was abundant in her cultures, and it was highly resistant.
A second child in Texas has died from measles. Why are Americans dying from measles in 2025?
There's only 3 deaths from measles in 20 years. And they're all people with extreme complications.
But there was no evidence they were sick before, and they got sick from the measles, right?
Daisy Hildebrand, whose funeral I attended this week, was hospitalized 3 times from other illnesses. She had extreme tonsillectomy. She had mononucleosis that she could not kick. And then she got measles. She got over the measles, according to her parents. And according to the medical reports, I saw a report on it today, that the thing that killed her was not the measles, but it was a bacteriological infection.
While all respiratory viruses can increase the risk of secondary bacterial pneumonia, according to the doctors treating these recent cases, there's something unusual with this strain of measles. In some children, a dangerous drop in oxygen saturation occurred within 2 weeks of infection. This took place independently of pneumonia and resembled the hypoxic episodes seen in a subset of COVID-19 patients.
Some people that did go in to get tested, not only did they test positive for measles, but a lot of them tested positives for measles, COVID, and strep.
I am hearing some people with the respiratory issue that it comes back.
A little while after, their spots cleared off, and then they did have the respiratory thing.
This is not just the measles.
With this measles outbreak, and maybe other respiratory viral illnesses that may hit as outbreaks in the future, there's certain things that make sense. As far as tools, one is a pulse oximeter, a little device that you put on your finger that costs about $50. You can buy that over the counter at any pharmacy and see what the oxygen saturation level is. Second thing is a nebulizer machine. You can buy those online. Prescription medicines that have helped would include budesonide nebulizer treatments, Zofran, which stops the nausea, clarithromycin antibiotic for a bacterial infection, whether it's bronchitis or pneumonia. Other things that are helping during this outbreak are, at times, IV fluids are necessary, and supplemental oxygen. Sometimes it's keeping people out of the hospital and helping them recover.
Doctors are stuck in this Darwinian evolutionary materialism reductionist model, and we've got to break through that. If love your neighbor is the standard that we operate by, we can get out of this. But if love your paycheck and love your title and love your position is your standard, we'll stay divided. And that's where we're at. We've got a fatal cancer in our, not just our medical culture, in our world. And it's this self-centeredness driven by fear instead of love your neighbor.
I just really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank those two doctors for the blessing that they were to our community.
Their help, their protocols, their advocating for us, I think I can say without a shadow of a doubt, they've saved kids.
We're not given to fear. God has given us peace. The reporters that are shining the cameras in our faces and we get to tell them that Jesus loves them, that's probably been the highlight for me, is that we get to display our love to the world, and that's powerful.
The Mennonite people are an amazing people. It's a story of resiliency. If you really go and listen to their story from the 1500s, moving because of persecution all over the world, and eventually to Canada, to Mexico, to Seminole, Texas. And this group is so resilient. They love God and they love their neighbor, they love each other, and they come together to help each other.
This year marks 500 years since the Mennonites began in the Netherlands. The Mennonite communities have always been a little world in a bigger world. That's a beautiful way of thinking of the Mennonites. A little world in the bigger world. Love it.
Though our time with the Mennonite community in West Texas was brief, we left with a deep respect for their way of life. A people who do not need the system are a threat to those who seek to control. Those who grow their own food cannot be starved. Those who heal themselves cannot be kept sick. Those who hold fast to their morals cannot be led astray. And so they endure the whispers, the scrutiny, the pressure to conform. But they do not bend. They persevere, quietly, against all odds. A witness to what is still possible for those who have not forgotten who they are. A living proof that the old way still holds power. And that those who honor them will once again lead the way.